Okay, so today's October 24th, 2021, and we'll be continuing our discussion on the Desiderata Extinctionati. We had an interesting discussion, but do you want to start off with our context? So, with Derek Jensen planning to speak, might have a conversation with him sometime in November. It's been pretty busy, but hopefully we can talk to him again. And then Max Wilbert sent me a contact by a French journalist or a filmmaker. So I'll see if she wants to talk to us. She was interested in Max's project at Thacker Pass. They wanted to know about their American perspective on climate change and their different viewpoints. And so maybe we can be a part of that as well. So that's it for now.
Yeah, okay, cool. Really nice. Yeah. I haven't got a lot of stuff that I managed to do this week. As usual. Yeah, it's the IB stuff and all of that. I just want to see where it's going, but I think that everything is now, about COP next Sunday. Starts next week, and so I think everybody's kind of distracted by COP and stuff. So I don't know. You see, listening to those videos and stuff, it's like. So I completely understand the track that they're on, but I don't see it the same way. I think there's a fundamental difference, and I think it's, again, you just kind of got to wait and see. You've got to let them run out on the track that they're on, and reap the fruits that they're going to reap, and then pick it up from there. But I kind of think that the stars are not aligned. They're not aligned for them, and they're not aligned for us with them. So it's just, I think, a question of waiting. You see, the way I see it, tell me what you guys think, but I think that you've got to prepare. You've got to basically do preparation, all-time preparation, just girding your loins for the opportunity to strike, and then strike. I think you can't force the issue and try and make an opportunity when there isn't one. You just meet a wall of resistance. I think people are missing that. I think they're missing that in Thelma, and Martin Luther King, and taking all of that thing. They're missing something that it's ripe for that. So it's kind of, you can't go off half-cocked or when the situation is not right. So like the pandemic and stuff is not it. It is not the social or psychological tipping point. It's a step in there, but it's like a softening up for a bigger step. It is not the critical point of social change. So in other words, to go now and say from a standing start, you're going to have global change in 6 months is like, maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe it does all snowball, and I'm not reading it right, and it's, everybody's ripe for revolution. But that's not my read. I think basically everybody's simmering, but they're not on the gas mark for complete blowing the lid off the pressure cooker, which is where it has to be. So I think you got to bide your time and wait for the pressure to build up, but it's not at the explosive pressure point. So you see, my view is that you don't have a lot of influence if you're thinking in terms of a rebellion or a revolution. You have to take your opportunity. You've got to sow seeds. You've got to build up the pressure. But it's frustrating because we're on a fixed timeline. But you have to accept that maybe the stars don't align. Maybe people will not get to a right point where you can lance the boil and make It's lancing the boil is a good analogy. So I think what doctors used to do in the old days was they didn't lance a boil too early. They'd wait for it to build up and build up and build ahead. When it was absolutely ripe, they would get out the lancet and then go and lance it when it was ready. And it's kind of like you make a more of a problem by lancing the boil too early. So I don't think that the world has come to a boil. It's simmering. It's simmering all right, but I don't think the pandemic is the boil over point. So I don't see world revolution in the next 6 months. So what do you guys think about this?
I didn't listen. I didn't have time to listen to the whole video of Roger about the 6 months. So I can't answer to exactly. I don't know what he's saying really, but I gather from what you're saying that, I mean, and the little bit I know and that I read, that we are not there yet. And I'm sometimes surprised to see people going off this huge militant attitude of rebellion with the situation with the COVID, because that's energy that is wasted at the moment, and rebellion that should be better channeled in other areas and at a later date. Because I mean, you don't want to waste your time at the moment with this vax, anti-vax, and stories about the vaccine and stuff. It's you're going down.
It's valuable because it's raising the pressure.
Yeah.
It's raising the pressure on society. So it's all rather good, and you should, help stoke the flames. But it's not the critical point. So you see, I think where they're coming from is like, well, we're under the gun. There's an agenda. We have no time to waste. So we have to act now. And I say, like, well, we have to act now is logical, but it might not be practical. You might have to say, look, if the time to act is now, and if we don't act now, it's too late. But if we're powerless to act now, we have to accept that that's it. We're going to fuck up. We're not going to live. It's not guaranteed that we win, guys. So it doesn't matter that it says, like, we have to act now. We've got 6 months. We have to do something in the next 4 years and stuff. It's like, yeah, but maybe the stars just don't align that way. Maybe the world just doesn't see it that way. And you're not going to have a revolution you can't force a revolution with 10 people going and being martyrs. You see, it's like, look at the Arab Spring. It's like the Arab Spring was not caused by that vegetable seller guy who self-immolated in front of the Tunisian parliament. That was the final straw that built up. You can't say, the guy went and self-immolated in Tunisia and that led to the Arab Spring. Therefore, I want the Arab Spring. I'm going down to the police station to self-immolate. It's like, no, that's a very poor reading of the situation. That guy was the spark that lit the flame, because the whole room was at the flash point. And then he was the spark that lit. But you can't go like striking your light in the room when the room's not at the flash point. So you're striking a spark in like damp wood, It's just the way I see it. I'm not. My gut feel is the wood is too damp. People don't see it. People are not seeing how bad climate change is and stuff. The next thing that's likely to happen is we're going to come out of COP26, and it's going to be very lukewarm and more bullshit and empty promises and look like Paris, where everybody talks crap and slaps each other on the back and nothing happens. And so it's just, add that a couple of more millibars to the pressure. But it's not like Rupert Reed and stuff says, it's like, oh, people are going to come out of COP and people are going to be really angry that there's no action and stuff. It's like, it's not going to be like that. They're going to promise action. Nobody's going to be angry after COP, as far as I can tell. People are going to come out of COP frustrated because there won't be anything definitive. They'll make huge lies and promises. Everybody will know that they're bullshit. But nobody will be so sure that it's bullshit that they will go and then start the revolution. So it means we've got to keep on building the egregore, finding like-minded people, building, I think an underground network, spreading, being the cancer's cancer. So I think we just got to keep on eating away, being the cancer's cancer, just doing what we're doing. And it's like, but my view. Would somebody like to do something else? Should we all be going and throwing ourselves in the square with a dramatic gesture or something? What do other people feel?
I think we have to endure, and we have to continue as what we're doing. I don't really know. I absolutely think that the situation is not right for this sort of thing. We have to. Sometimes it's difficult, but it's not. It's the only way.
Yeah, I agree with Sophie there, and that's why I was focusing more on the self-development series, and that's why I had that earlier talk with you, Hugh, because I think a better use of that time would be personal self-development, because eventually there will be time for action. But I think self-development is it's a good thing to review time and time again.
Yeah. So that's the way I see it. It's long time of preparation, and then decisive action. But they're going to decisive action without preparation. It's like you say, well, they might argue, well, we've had 30 years of preparation with all the sciences there, this is cutting edge social science and stuff. And it's like, nah, it's all bullshit that hasn't worked in 30 years. Get real. So if there's one thing that the past 30 years of activism has said is you need new tactics. This is not MLK, this is not Gandhi. Move on, move the fuck on. We've been trying the same broken fucking record. We've been stuck in this rut. We have to change tactic. And you see, I'm having a little rant here, but you see, they're doing this in a vacuum. They assume that we're not heading into all these crises. They're not looking ahead to the environment that we're going to have to act in. And so it's not in 2019. It's not happy time where you go and do your little, green activism. This is serious shit time. Tell me how green activism works when we go to war with fucking China. Tell me how it works when we got fucking famines and, if there's a die-off in India for a wet bulb event. Tell me how it all works then. Show me the grid go down and then tell me what your tactic is. But you see, they just doing no planning for that. It's as if we just, it's just us. It's very solipsistic. It's very closed-minded. And it's like, how's this going to work, man? You've got to anticipate where we're going. And look, it's pretty easy to see where we're going. This is going to be a financial collapse. People are missing that in effect, we're having a slow burn general strike around the world. This is a fabulous opportunity to explore. What are you doing? Sitting in a fucking road. What's fucking wrong with you, man? You got to say, like, okay, where are we at? We're not in fucking Selma. We're fucking in the middle of a pandemic, 2 years into a pandemic, where there were just the fucking supply chain shocks and logistical problems, which I said in February 2020 when I wrote this thing about what's going to happen in the pandemic. And I said, it's going to be very difficult to get, once you stop all of these things and have lockdowns, they're going to be supply chain shocks. They're basically, it's a well-known thing in economics that you can destroy companies by just having it's called a supply chain shock. You just have a hiccup in the supply chain and it fucks everything up, make companies go bust. And they happen for no reason. So this is obviously one that's happening. So it's a fantastic time to exploit. Why you had 2 years to prepare. What do? Sit at home in lockdown saying, well, we can't act now because there's a pandemic. It's like, what? This is the opportunity of a lifetime. But anyway, having my little rant here, but you see what I mean? Is the different way of operating is try and anticipate what world events coming. Say what are we going to do for the financial collapse that's imminent? You say, like, we're about to go through hyperstagflation. Like, what's your plan for that? Sit in the road. It's like, no. What's sitting in a road going to do for fucking Wall Street? What are you going to do when the fucking cyber attack comes? It's like all these opportunities going past. Why? Because you got fixed idea fixate. We'll do them okay. Oh boy.
You have put something that I liked and I understand very well, is the White Lotus secret society, Chinese secret society, because that is not a waste of time. Like preparing secret societies, building underground networks, I hate the word, but you know, that sort of thing. That is, and I really like that ethos, because they have no dogma, they're just practical, but at the same time they're a great base for uprising, by what I see in history. Do you know a bit more about this?
Yeah, I don't know much about them, but I mean, as soon as I haven't read like a book on them or anything like that, but as soon as I mean, I knew about them from the Boxer Rebellion and peripherally and stuff, but I haven't really studied them. But as soon as I saw about them, and I thought, yeah, this is the formula. But it's the same. It is a standard for rebellion technique. Is most rebellions had a secret society behind them, like the French Revolution and stuff. Is like, you have to be a historian to just say, oh, it was all these huge class struggle and stuff. It's, no, man, the Freemasons were fucking up to their elbows in it. The same in the American War of Independence. They had all these secret societies and stuff putting their oar in. Now, historians don't tell you about them because it wasn't written in the fucking Sunday Times. But behind the scenes, that's what's happening. That's all these players, you know. There are a whole lot of these things right now, and there's Anonymous and a whole load of cyber hackers and lone wolf groups, and you know, a lot more than GDR and stuff, right? But you know, that is the armies of these little networks and stuff. So it's like, you know, we all work together doing our own little thing. It's not necessary to say, oh, we need 2,000 people. It's like 7 is fine. That's, you know, the Communist Party at the point of the, you know, World War I and stuff, it was about 7 people. It's like, it's that, you see, the people that are like-minded, that are working in different domains towards the same goal. So you have to think. So it's not about you know, they say, oh, a movement of movements and stuff, and say, no, what they're thinking of is, you know, you have the same crap left-wing tactics we do, so we see eye to eye. You say, no, it's guys on the right wing, it's guys that have, you know, religion, Christian types and stuff that you fundamentally don't agree with, but we are aligned. We can all see that this fucking tyranny is coming down the pipeline. We want to. Don't look too closely. Say like, oh, you know, you're a fascist, so we can't talk to you. So why the fuck not? Like, I don't care who he is as long as he stands up against tyranny. Anyway, you can see the theme that my thinking is that we're a freaking doomed. We're in the Titanic. There's not much time left, so we kind of have to do accelerated enlightenment. It doesn't work to, you know, transform the world and still, you know, have the mentality of a prisoner. So you can't say, okay, we're going to transform the prison when all the guys still have the mindset of a prisoner. You can't do it. So you have to do both. You have to Work on the prisoner, get them to change their mindset, and then work at the same time in tandem, work against the prison. And then hope that they all come to alliance so we can have a prison break. It's like saying, guys, we're going to sit in the road and everybody's going to join us, and then we're going to have a prison break. I can see a few other outcomes. One, you get fucking steamrolled. Police crimes bill, guys. Police crimes bill. You might ignore it, but it's not going to ignore you. They have we're bad.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
I just wanted to say that the valuable thing that I'm trying to work on is what you had mentioned about withdrawing support for the system. So that's something I'm working on. And for my little corner of the world, what I see is that a lot of the people I know, they are still hoping, like you said, to go back to 2019, to become normal again. And I think a lot of people, that's what they're hoping for. And they're not seeing the background of all the environmental problems and the systemic problems that are facing us. So yeah, that's all I have to say for now.
Yeah, I don't think normal is gonna come back. I mean, 9/11 was over 20 years ago, and we still have to take our shoes off at airports and stuff. These things don't ratchet backwards; they only ratchet forwards when we cede power to authority.
I also think that the way I see it, there's going to be crisis after crisis. So there's wave after wave after wave. People are going to be like desperate to catch a breath. They're like, fuck, will these things ever stop? And the answer is nope. See, the way I think 2020 is a very, very crucial year. And the way to see it is a tipping point, although it's kind of overused expression. The way you must think of it like an aircraft with its wing foil, and it's like boundary separation. So up until 2020, we've got laminar flow, and after 2020, we get flow separation, is what they're called. It's got turbulence in a storm. What normally happens to an aircraft now is it goes into an incipient spin, and I think that's what we're doing. So, yeah. The guys don't have the knowledge to pull the Earth system out of an incipient spin, and so that's where we're headed. So it's like, hold on to your fucking hat. This is gonna be rough. So you can see the things stacking up. You can see them stacking up.
Yeah, the more I see, the more I wonder if it's even worth putting efforts into the prison yard and trying to fix it, or if we should just be putting our efforts into when it collapses around us, how are we going to deal with that? Like, what is our future after that? Because I a lot of times these things do, they'll implode on their own, and the process of trying to get them to implode makes you a target.
Yeah, no, so yeah, you think you should work very, very hard not to be a target. So that's one of the things that's wrong with this kind of MLK strategy, is like the nail stands too proud. And in that Gandhi kind of thing was like, we're up in more a situation like against Hitler rather than civil rights. So Hitler has said to Lord Halifax, he said, why don't you just fucking shoot Gandhi? And Halifax had to try and explain to Hitler, like, well, we're English, we don't do that kind of thing. And Hitler was like, well, you're going to get fucked up, aren't you? So it's much more like the Hitler situation where, it's like you stand too proud in this, the guys are going to hammer you badly. So I'd say, you've got to resist. But now my thinking is that you have to resist for your own soul. What I found in South Africa is everybody knew that apartheid was going to end. Some would admit it, some would not, but everybody knew somewhere deep down that this is completely unsustainable. It's just some people would say, not in my lifetime, and some people like me would say, 10 years, baby. 10 years, the show's over. And then, so the main thing, though, is that what I noticed was if you don't resist. In other words, you're saying like, oh, this is over in 10 years. Why should we even lift a finger? It's like it eats your soul to do that. To sit by and watch is that there's something, some fundamental law or something of the universe you're kind of violating. But it's kind of difficult to say it, but you kind of losing your self-respect, or you're doing something unnatural. It's maybe that's the way to describe it. It's unnatural to sit and watch things slide. So you don't want to go nuts and start flailing, and you also don't want to go, well, we'll just see how this pans out. I don't know. Maybe it's a personal thing. Maybe there are guys out there that can go like, yeah, I can watch this shit with a beer. But you see, what scares me is those guys who say, I'm going to just sit back and watch this with a beer, is like, you're not going to watch this on television. You're in denial. You see, these guys are thinking that they kind of excluded from this. And you're saying like, oh, I'm just going to watch this. Okay, that's fine, as long as watching this means you're being arse raped from the back, okay? And you're just sitting around watching this, okay? And you're saying like, ooh, I would thought watching it meant watch it on TV with a beer in my hand. No, it's being arse raped and watching it. So it's like, think of it more like that. It's more visceral. It's like, you're about to be arse raped. Do you fight, or do you just say, well, he'll do his thing and then he'll let me go? It's like, well, how do you live as a rape victim after that? Maybe if you fought back, you might basically get less trauma out of the rape. Think of it more like that. Bit harsh, but I have to use that analogy because people tend to get a bit too left brain, and it's an academic exercise like, oh, I'm going to read this in the newspaper. Yeah, this stuff is epidemic. I just saw this Sabine Hossenfelder, the physicist woman, and she's interviewing this climate scientist, and he just examined the same conceit of the liberal classes, and they're like so convinced that like this is a thing that they're going to be millions of people, that are, being displaced. They're going to be mass movements and stuff like that, and it's got this tone of like, oh, the brown people are going to suffer. It's like, listen, dude, get over that shit. The brown people are not going to suffer. You live in London. Like, you have a long way to fall to equilibrium. If I live in a fucking grass hat in Gambia, I don't have much for it. Like when the HAEMP goes off over fucking America, if I'm in Kenya growing fucking coffee, it's like not gonna be a fucking skin on my nose. Nothing's gonna happen to me. If I'm in a skyrise in New York, I'm in deep trouble. If I'm in a wheelchair in a skyrise in New York after that HAEMP and the grid down, I'm in fucking dire trouble. But all these guys are like, oh, but I'm rich and privileged and I live in New York with a high income. So this is, it's going to be devastating for all these poor brown people. No, you've got further to fall. It's like looking down from the top of a Jenga tower and saying, ooh, those poor brown people at the bottom of this Jenga tower, they've got a long way to fall. It's like, look at yourself. You're at the fucking top of the Jenga tower. They've got a forest. They can go and get bushmeat. You go and show me how you get fucking bushmeat out of Central Park. Man, these guys are arrogant.
I
I'm trying
agree
to
with
say is
that.
you're not going to glide over it.
That makes me think
So
of what
this is a
A
city people problem. The guys in the crosshairs are in the fucking city, right? Get that through your skull. It's like, I'm trying to stop people. I'm trying to help people not get traumatized. So the way I see it is I'm expressing my South African trauma, but I'm reading my radar saying we're in South Africa. I'm back in the youth that I thought I'd never see again. I'm saying, I'm trying to tell you, trauma, guys, you're going to suffer trauma. Okay. Now here's Hugh's gift to you is first, get that through your head. You're about to be fucking ass raped. Try and think of the worst thing that you can imagine happening to you. It's going to happen. That's what's coming. Okay. So once you've got that in your head, when it comes, it'll be a hell of a lot better, right? So try, if anything, try to think of it much worse than it's going to be. If I get this right, was when this bad shit, worse than bad, as Roger Hallam says, comes down the pike and gets you. What goes around comes around. See, this is what happened in South Africa. Is people are denial, people popping around. You know, this neighbor is killed. This neighbor is raped. This, and they all going like, it won't happen to me because I've got a gun. And then it happens to them, and then they freaking traumatized. Why? Because they didn't prepare psychologically. The first thing is they didn't admit that, you know, it can happen to anybody. And it does. And the other thing they didn't admit is what goes around comes around. So when things get tough, these things are going to visit you. If you're looking for migrants and mass caravans, you're it. Don't, just because the first guys to get going are now in South America and the caravans are coming up from Somalia, it's like, those guys are just the first front runners. You're in the middle of the pack if you live in New York or somewhere, Beijing. So I'm trying to prevent you suffering trauma, because if you suffer too much trauma, you won't survive. I want people to survive.
Yeah, but
So one of the things that'll take you down is trauma, and so you know, you can't think in terms of I'm going to escape this. I'm going to glide over it. I'm going to prep my way out of it. You're not. It's going to hit you square between the eyes. That's the first step to accept that.
But what A was saying at the start as a form of attitude that we could have at the moment, which is stepping out as much as possible and trying to, you know, be, and what Ryan was saying too about our attitude, should we bother at all? Do you know, that sort of, well, I know you don't mean that, Ryan, but and Hugh answered, well, you know, our soul, I mean, I think our soul would suffer too myself if you didn't stand up to what you see, and it's a matter of you know, well-being nearly, to and to follow this natural instinct to rebel. But I still think that I still think, like Mike, that the personal preparation, knowing yourself and developing your your psychological muscle, if I may say, is extremely important. We really need to go to concentrate on that, and that will be a way of not only healing all trauma but preventing the next traumas to be born a little bit easier. And yeah, and that's what I think anyway.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. So the point I'm trying to make is that people that do well in trauma of philosophical, people that go through an ordeal of philosophical about it. So, you know, if you go into it in flat out denial, oh man, it's going to hit you hard. The stuff that's coming is bad. It's bad, real bad. And I mean, it's like when? It's like, I don't know, like 5 years, 10 years, but soon, much sooner than everybody's thinking. There's basically, see, what concerns me is people are going to be blindsided, and that's half the pain and misery is from the blindsiding, even more than the actual events that we're about to see.
Yeah, I saw something earlier today about kind of the 5 phases of realization about doomerism, I guess. Um, one was phase 1 was thinking that everything's fine, and that's the one you're most afraid people are going to be stuck at. And yeah, I think having that opinion is pretty much fatal. Um, and then the second is you find one problem like global warming or e-tyranny or one of these things, and then you get kind of hyper aware about that, and you start being railing against that one thing, and you get really inspired to like join some march somewhere or something like that, um, and then you the phase 3 is you realize there are multiple problems, right? That it's not just that global warming's the issue. It's that you have collapse in this area, you have disease vectors in that area, you have uh, you know uh, insecurity, cyber attacks, and you have the destruction of topsoil and all these things. uh, you realize there are multiple problems. And then phase 4 is when you realize that there are interaction effects between these problems. And that's when it starts to be, oh, wow. So you can't solve one of these without causing problems in the others to get worse, right? And the interaction effects means that you just start to realize that maybe these actions like this march or this activism stuff is actually counterproductive. Like maybe I should step back, maybe I should think about what I'm doing. And it might be that these problems, to prevent extinction, it's just intractable. And that there may not be a solution, right? And then step 5 is where you kind of you see all this, and it starts to you become like a solid doomer that realizes there isn't a way out. And then it's where do you go from there? It's a very depressing place. And I think what you're saying, Hugh, is that your psychology, like, it's a lot better to feel like you're Batman in a secret society or something, and you're kind of pushing against the evil rather than just being um just taking the brunt of the psychological trauma head on without any kind of mental preparation. And I think that's kind of what the my first comment was about. I wasn't saying we're going to watch this on TV. By the way, there's a Tool video, Vicarious, about this very thing. It's a band that maybe you won't like, but it's uh, it's about watching extinction from a distance on TV and thinking that's enough. Uh, yeah, it's a pretty intense video.
Can
Then
can you can you send a link to that video, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
And but ultimately, I was talking more about um, the interaction effects thing. So if you make a name for yourself trying to solve one problem, you become a target for another problem. If you try to solve global warming by Green New Deal, you cause the very problem you're trying to solve. And these are the kinds of questions that um, I'm considering. Like a lot of my enemies have ended up just falling apart because other people didn't like them either, right? And they would get fired or these kind of things. Like it was, and had I been really actively fighting against them, I might have made the situation worse for myself. And so it's
Yes.
it's not about not taking preparation or not taking action. It's about uh not taking default actions from panic, right? It's about making selective actions
Okay.
that where you need to be very careful about which actions you take. And so I was saying, why don't we focus on the actions post collapse, where if we're so sure that collapse is happening, like, is there do you have what you need mentally to bring into that new situation? And
Yeah.
granted, there's a phase between now and then that you have to survive. So both need preparation, one more urgently than the other, of course, because you may not even survive it to see the other side. So
Yeah. See, the way I see it is that 5 stages of doomerism is kind of like a birthing process, where doomerism you want to get to quickly. That's kind of postpartum. So you want the birth to be quick, and you want to get to doomer postpartum. So doomers are in a good place because they might be depressed as hell, but if they lose all their hopium, it's the same as basically being birthed. They just got to like cut the umbilical. You've got to do a little bit more work, but in essence, they're out of the womb when they do it. See, the danger is that we're going to be stillborn as a society, because it's like you say that the danger in the denial, collapse denial. People like Michael E. Mann, they're saying like, we still have human agency. That's completely the wrong message, because it's delaying the birth. It's basically you want to get people to doomerism, not get them past this hopium stage. And so the reason for it is I keep on trying to warn people that there's terrible, terrible danger in this critical, that 4th stage, where people realize that it's an intractable problem. You see, in proving to themselves it's checkmate, they'll cause incalculable damage. So the obvious ones are like geoengineering. So we're in checkmate, but you want to basically throw this game as soon as possible. And you see, if they start doing things like geoengineering, it will mean that we're underlying any chance, we're just throwing away any chance that we can live beyond this chess game. So we have no reason to hope when people start doing crazy shit. And they're going to do crazy shit. So you see, geoengineering is never going to work, because it would just take too damn long. And we're past the tipping points. And so I mean, sorry to say tipping points, because this is such a damn thing. But let me just say one thing about like tipping points that people don't realize. I think they think that when we pass the tipping point, you're going to get a news headline in The Guardian saying, well, guys, we just passed the final milestone, point of no return on the Arctic ice or the Amazon and stuff. It's like, no, you're not going to get anything in the mail that tells you. You're not going to get a memo. There's not going to be any announcement on the tannoy. The pilot's not going to come on and say, ladies and gentlemen, I just want you to know that we have just passed a major tipping point. From here on out, we had a point of no return, and we will sure to ditch in the ocean. Please prepare. You're not going to get that announcement. Let me tell you what it's like. It's like, okay, take this analogy. If you're in a canoe, if you're Pocahontas in a canoe, and you're going downstream, well, it's all like very nice paddling, and as you paddle, you carry on. Now you can hear the fucking rapids ahead. You can hear this, maybe a waterfall. It's not sounding good, and you can feel the current is starting to move faster and faster towards the thing. So you know this is not looking good. This is the situation. Where's the tipping point? Well, it's not announced in any big way. The tipping point for Pocahontas is when essentially when she can see the transits on the shore are moving twice as fast as she can paddle. So let me just think about that. See, Pocahontas is at the point of no return when, if she's paddling along happily, which is what we're doing, we're pumping out CO2 and greenhouse gases and doing waste of time shit like COP and stuff, and activism, we're still paddling in the same direction, which is basically GDP growth and industrialism and carrying on working this machine, which is an analogy for paddling, right? So now, so the point of no return is when, if Pocahontas turns around, the current is already moving faster than she can paddle. So she only knows that when she's looking at the shore and she's saying that basically, you know, the shoreline and transits on the shoreline are moving twice as fast as she can paddle. In other words, if she turns around, she can't row against the current. Now, if you look at the situation that way, we're past. You see, if we turned around now and we did, Sam Mitchell did a very good video on this, which kind of highlighted in a very nice Duma way, was a guy, one of Sam's friends, wrote in and said, you know, this is where we're at in terms of carbon capture. If you got every single power station, every single greenhouse gas emitting whatever, smokestack and ship and everything like that, and you basically just flip the sign. In other words, you say whatever they're putting out in carbon now, they suddenly miraculously flipped and became carbon capture machines at the same rate they're putting out now. Say, how long would it take to get back to 350? Basically, in other words, safety, to get back to calm waters where we can paddle? The answer is 30 years. So ask yourself. So you say, well, how can that be? Because, you know, it didn't take 30 years to get there, but you've got to work out that basically there are more sources of greenhouse gas than just the smokestacks. But anyway, it gives you an idea of how deluded we are in this fourth stage of denial. Because people, you know, the IPCC and respected people that have won Nobel Prizes and that are in essence saying, all we have to do, all Pocahontas has to do is to slow down. We just have to paddle faster and find, you know, maybe attach an outboard motor that, you know, keeps us stationary facing the other direction. It's like, no, you got to get back to 350 parts per million. And we're past this kind of event horizon where if you started, you know, we don't even have the technology for carbon capture yet. We can't get there from it. You can't plant trees in lines. You can't plant 1 million trees. You're just planting firewood. Again, you'd be adding to the problem. See, planting trees in like pines and lines kind of forestry way is wrong kind of geoengineering. It's geoengineering. And you think, oh, but it's planting trees. Isn't that good? No, you're planting firewood. Basically, you need forest. The forest is an ecosystem. It takes decades and decades, maybe 50 years to make a forest. You need forests, not pines and lines. Not fucking, you know, this guy saying, oh, we can plant seeds. We can have drones. And these guys are talking about, oh, they just shoot seeds into the ground and we can plant 1 trillion trees. Great. You've planted the worst fire break you've ever seen in your life. That's going up in fucking smoke before the trees are basically waist high. We're going into droughts, dudes. Those trees are going, that's firewood you plant. But these guys are going to have to learn because, think of the lessons they have to learn. They have to stop believing these experts. These experts are crazy. Stop believing billionaires. They're psychopaths. See, it's like, what are you saying, Hugh? I'm saying everything you believe is wrong. Flip this whole world. Your whole worldview is wrong. And you have to do this rapidly in the next 5 years. Is it going to happen? Of course not.
Yeah, we've got climate denial on the right.
And we've got, if enough people realize that and get to tourism.
Yeah, we've got climate denial on the right and, you know, this Green New Dealism, you know, false hope on the left. And like in order for everybody to abandon their little camp of left or right to get towards something that's more realistic, that's not going to happen. People are so tribal that they're not just going to like flip everything. If people will eventually all become doomers, but not a day sooner than they have to.
Yeah, you see what people are this is a very, very special circumstance. You see, that tribalism is actually good. It's in the normal course of what we evolved to do, that tribalism is good. You see a lot of this stuff where people are wailing about, disinformation and social media and how these guys are, doing suppression and how these guys are, having highly active users, spreading disinformation and that, as if there's something wrong. Saying, no, this is right. It's exactly how we're supposed to work. All these outrages happening on social media is correct. If you go and have a look at a beehive and see how they do consensus decision making, we're doing it exactly like a beehive. When bees come and do a waggle dance and communicate where the best direction to the next hive is and stuff like that, there are crazy right-wing Hitler bees that come and say, I have the best. I know, this is the best hive, and it's the worst fucking hive. If they went there, they'd all die. So the bees have this way of basically getting to this consensus, and we're doing it. If you look at the analysis these guys do online of the social media, and they're like, oh, the horror, and say, no, not the horror. Go and look at a fucking beehive. This is working correctly, right? All the battle between the left and the right, it's supposed to work like that. Here's the problem. We're in territory that you're not supposed to get to. The alien cortex has taken us into a trap where we have to get over ourselves. We have to be extremely unnatural. So behaving naturally is what we're doing. We're not broken. Everybody thinks we're broken. And if we can get fixed by getting consensus. No. If you've got consensus, you would be broken. Right? That is not the way the decision making happens, or you get emergent decision making. So it happens by these biases and counter biases and that and all this stuff that we just do not have time for. So you say, well, how unnatural do you have to be? Well, you've got to do an incredible feat of self-knowledge. You have to say, like, okay, first of all, you have to admit some really dark things. One of them is we're going to get Thanos. We have to get Thanos. Guys, the 8 billion people, 220,000 people net are added every single day. It's like, I don't care what your opinion is on overpopulation or some wet dream of some economist, how, prosperity or AI is going to make prosperity. Like, dude, you're fucking nuts. We're heading rapidly for overshoot. 10 billion people, maybe 11, and then drawdown. It's just maths, dude. It's just got to get over it. We don't have the fresh water for your wet dream. Whether it's panels in the Sahara, and it's like everybody's like got their wet dream, but it's like they don't account for somebody else's wet dream needs the water that you have for this wet dream. It's like it's a complete super wicked problem. So the thing is, though, we have to say we're in this kind of predicament with kind of climbers. So, like climbers hanging, cliff hanging, and they're all chained together on a rope, and like 3 or 4 of them have dropped off the cliff. They're like 2 hanging onto the cliff, and you say, like, you've got to cut that rope, man. It's like, you've got to cut that rope. Now we can't do that because he's saying, no, the mammalian brain goes nuts. Say, oh, what about the babies? What are the children? We can't deindustrialize. People are going to die. And then say, like, yes. And what's going to happen if we don't cut the rope? We're all going to die. So it's like, it's one of those parachute dilemmas. Right? So there's research in saying that people are primed for extinction. Because if you do the research, if you say to people, like, okay, which is worse? Say 6 billion people dying or human extinction. Ironically, people will say, oh, 6 billion people dying. So, like, how can that be? Surely it's worse that everybody goes extinct.
That's exactly the point that you were making
People don't see
earlier.
it that way.
That's exactly the point that you were making earlier. Because the natural reaction would be to say that it's better to have 6 billion people die than to have human extinction. That's the natural reaction. And you were mentioning also how the liberal mind or the politically correct people go against this kind of carrying on social media, of people getting at each other, making a lot of noise. And that, again, as you said, is a natural reaction of humans. And to see the reaction of the media, the liberal people saying, oh, it's toxic, people should not be fighting like that, people should not be insulting each other, people should not be, it's again against nature all the time. Every time you look at any problem.
I hope we got this right. Is what I was saying was we have to go against nature. So it's a unique thing, is what we are behaving by nature, but if we don't snap out of it, we're going to go extinct. So what I mean is we have to do an incredible feat of self-knowledge on a mass scale. So what happens now is in the dialogue is, as you know, when you talk about depopulation, then immediately the mammalian brain goes, oh, that's my department, babies are going to die, freak out. So it's saying, like, okay, now the mammalian brain has to be quietened down. In this case, alien cortex needs to rule and say 6 billion people dying is better than complete extinction. So the alien cortex needs to overrule the mammalian brain that's going apeshit hysterical. 6 billion deaths, horrendous deaths, hysterical. It's like, whoa, this is a lot to ask of a chimp.
I
then
get that.
You can't stay in the alien cortex. Then to survive, you need mutualism. Then you have to step in and be a mutualist, which is from our primate brain. And it's like, but our primate brain steps in when people are thinking in terms of, well, that person is a scientist, that person is a Nobel Prize laureate, so we should be listening to them. No, they're psychopaths, and your primate brain is telling you to listen to a fucking psychopath. You should be overriding your primate brain. Your primate brain should come in after we've killed all the fucking bastard psychopaths. When we've eliminated them straight from our reptilian brain, slaughter the buggers, then you need the primate brain to step in and be a mutualist and then be nice to everybody that's left. But it's kind of like, escape the room. You have to apply this and this and this in the right order. If you don't get that order right, extinction. What is the chance that this chimp can govern himself so well that he can apply these parts of his brain to escape the room? Very fucking low. We're looking at a fucking miracle of a Hail Mary pass.
It's not like where the climbers were hanging from the cliff, and the two people that are hanging on are the in group, and the people that are dangling hands free are all the psychopaths, and we can just cut it like that. Like, some of the people that are dangling are us. Like, we're the ones that are gonna die too. Like, I think that we need to realize, like, kind of make peace with that in a way that I feel like I've got I'm gonna try not to, but if anyone deserves to die, it should be me. Like, there's so many things that I contributed negatively to the world, right?
So damn you, Ryan. When I did that analogy, I saw we were going to go here. Like, okay, so let's work this analogy and what you're saying there. Okay, let's start off with, like, in this analogy of the climbers, is who are the guys that are clinging to the rock face, and who's hanging? Now, the vast majority, the scientists and the economists and all the talking heads and the activists and all these social justice warriors, they think that they're the ones holding on the cliff, and all the brown people are hanging. So it's very, very racist to start talking about Thanos, because when you're talking about genocide, it's about brown people. No. The people that are actually attached to the cliff are the Sami. They are the San people. They are the Piraha people. These are the guys that are attached to the cliff. These are the guys that have a fucking prayer. These guys are still attached to the mountain. The guys hanging off the cliff are guys in urban areas. They all of us. So you're right. We are hanging. So where do we stand on this? Exactly as you said. We as the enlightened Western urbanites, are in the worst position. We are hanging, and the cut point is above us. Where we have to... It's terrible, man. Where we have to be as enlightened people is we have to cut the rope above us. And who falls is us and all the other stupid dumb fucks that don't know they're hanging. They are the urbanites. They are the person that lies on the grid. Have a look out of your window. Ask yourself how far away you are from your necessities. How many steps in the chain of your basic necessities are there? If you count more than one, you're on the dangly bit. If the things that are keeping you alive, I mean, look in next to you. If you're lying in an ICU, and then you can see an oxygen pump there, is okay. You need that fucking machine to stay alive. What does that machine need? It needs electricity. It needs oxygen. Where does that oxygen come from? It's bottled in fucking India. So it needs the shipping lanes to be open. It needs there not to be a war. It means that cyber terrorists, which are coming in droves, are not fucking bringing down the infrastructure. It means that the guys on the ships are being fed. It means that you have a nursing staff. It means you have a hospital. It means that you have a financial system that's paying you medical aid to keep your bills going in the hospital. You, my China, are done. There's no ways that the machine, the oxygen machine, is going to be getting oxygen from India. Is going to be doing all of this fuck, and Kaiser Permanente is still going to have a listing on the stock exchange after the grid goes down. You're gone. So
I think
of that through, man. Just ask yourself where you are on this thing. So what you should be thinking of in terms of like, am I doomed? Say, yeah, you probably are. So it's like, do the decent thing. Cut the rope. It's above your head around here.
Right. So
Sorry,
now after we get past this phase of the macabre phase of realizing that we need to be the human shield, is there during all of this catastrophe situation, you're going to get a lot of people climbing up the rope. You're going to get a lot of people encroaching on the Piraha territory, on the Sand People territory. They're going to be running away, refugee style, from the cities and just destroy the last few people that would have made it. So that's
why we have to cut the rope quick. Yeah.
Well, either we cut the rope quick.
You see
or we protect those people that deserve to live.
So it's hard to protect them. You see, like the Piraha already. You look at the Machagenga, all of those those tribes. They already getting guys coming in that are the first refugees, in other words, from the cities. So they're basically guys hunting, they're renegades, they're drug dealers, they are the first pirates that are this kind of sea peoples. So, like the Brazilian government is protecting the Piraha. They're protecting them from like corruption of the mind, like from missionaries who want to go there and like bag the last of the Mohicans before we go down. So the Brazilian government is protecting them, but if you imagine the Brazilian government as a crisis, fiscal crisis, they for the Piraha, and we can't do anything either because there are a lot of guys who are very capable and have guns, and they can go survivalist, and the Piraha in desperate trouble. It's the same with the Samians, the guys up north, and the San people and stuff is very, very likely to take those guys out as our last gasp. So the viable survivors from our species are very liable to be taken down. But the way to give them the best chance is to take the system down decisively and rapidly. So in other words, the guys that are best situated are close to the sea. You want to make sure primarily that the sea survives. It's not, the land is not so important, but you want to make sure that the fish are there and stuff, and that they can rebound. They will rebound quick in like 2 or 3 years. But you see, the land's going to warm up 7 degrees in the interior minimum, so it's not really viable. But the sea is still viable. Life can still go back to the sea, and people can still survive in some shoreline areas. You're not going to survive in the middle of Siberia, in the middle of Australia and stuff. And it's like, wet bulb temperatures are going to get you. But or just starvation and stuff like that. But so what we're doing is we're just taking out the last props. We're like hunting the last white rhino that they need for their survival. And so, but if you can get to the system, take it down and keep it down. But it needs very few people to do it. Right? They just have to be determined and know what they're doing. So there's this very, very dangerous psychology. I must talk about this. I always keep on saying that this is our biggest danger, is that the alien cortex will take us all out of spite when it goes down. That is the biggest challenge we have to face. So it's like, think of it this way. Just the other day, I was amazed. A friend of mine who, I'm stunned, can't believe that he said this. But he said that basically that we had a kind of a doomer conversation. He's a kind of famous doomer. And he said, like, isn't it the case that humans have caused so much damage that it's better that we just roll back? It's better that we go extinct. We've caused so much damage to this planet. It needs to go on. The animals, give them a chance. And it's like, whoa, that's it. That's the fucking thing I'm trying to warn people against. That sentiment is horrendous. What I said to him was, I said, like, first of all, who's this we? Asshole. I didn't say that, but that's what I was thinking. Saying, like, you saying we did such a... No, we did not. The Piraha people did not fuck up this planet irredeemably. Neither did the Sami, neither did the Bachagang, neither did the San people, neither did the Aborigines, neither did the guys in Papua New Guinea. Those guys did fuck all. Why do they need to die? The people that did all this was us. The fucking guys who now saying, like, oh, well, humans are so destructive, it's better that we all go extinct. No, it's better you fucking go extinct. Why? Because you're white. You're the problem. You're the Cro-Magnon fucking Neanderthal crossbred that caused this fucking industrial nightmare. You the fucking problem. Your failed hybridization. You're a freak. Me, you, white people, and a bit Asian too. They're not out of the woods. They've also got Neanderthal. So there's basically, we are failed hybridization. We, the guilty party, we the guys, yes, we must go extinct. You got that right. But why everybody? Why the poor? They're viable. We're not viable. So it's like, you got it half right, but you see the problem. See that sentiment, that is almost line for line out of the manifesto of the Columbine shooters. If you read what those guys said, they said nothing matters anymore. Said, we've ruined the planet. Humans don't deserve to live. We should give the planet back to the animals. That's almost verbatim for what I can remember for the Columbine shooters. So the Columbine shooters are exemplifying the behavior that I'm saying is going to be done on a mass scale. I'm talking Xi Jinping. I'm talking Psychopaths like Putin and Biden, that level. Those guys are going to do Columbine. See, that's the danger. You got to take those fucks out. So here, you see what I mean is that in that you get to that Columbine shooter situation on a global scale, and that's what we're our biggest hurdle, right? Is that. So I hope I got that across, because I've said it in a lot of ways. I always get the feeling that people don't believe me, they don't see it. This is all a battle of the alien cortex. The alien cortex is self-loathing. By the own logic and reasoning of the alien cortex, you can see that it's going to take itself out. So it's all about transformation, but it's going to take it out. All of us, literally, even guys that are not dominated by the alien cortex, like the Pirahã, those guys are viable, innocent. They don't have this overactive alien cortex. So it's like, why do they have to die? It's like, if the chimps get to survive and the bonobos, let the fucking Pirahã, they fucking, they're viable. Fuck it, man. It's like, we're not viable. So you got a choice. It's like, if you're white, if you're an Aryan, if you're Jewish, you got a choice. You can either do a rapid transformation, metamorphosis of your own psyche, your own alien cortex has to wipe it out by rewiring itself. Okay, either that or top yourself. Otherwise, we're looking at a Venus scenario, man. It's like, so after Pocahontas goes over the rapids, these guys are talking out of their ass when they're talking about, climate sensitivity and the next equilibrium point. All we know is we're going through a chaotic region, and out of the stability of the Holocene, where it restabilizes, don't believe anybody. We have no data. All these guys are talking shit. All their models are crap, because the models are based on prior history. We don't have any model for, as far as I know, there's no model for what emerges after such a rapid rise in CO2. It's just too complex to work out. And when it basically restabilizes around some kind of equilibrium attractor on the other side of the rapids, we don't know where that is. There might be Venus. It could be 18 degrees. It's not necessarily, they all say, oh, it stabilizes at 4 to 5 degrees. Horseshit. Where do you get that stuff out of? Out of your ass. It's based on computer models that were generated from back data in the Holocene when things were stable. So yeah. It's like there's a lot at stake here. It's everything. This is the end game, like Derek Jensen says.
Yeah, this might be true. But I always think about this whenever you talk about the alien cortex wanting to. If I don't live, then nobody else gets to. Is at the Tenet, the movie. There's a spoiler in this, I guess, but that definitely happens at with the main villain of the movie. Is that he says, "Well, I'm dying, so everybody else now has to." He's a gangster, billionaire type of guy. So it's who I first think of every time.
So hopefully we're deep enough into this video that we only have some real dedicated extinctionati. But I'm going to give you a bit of secret knowledge now. This is not for everybody to hear. So this is the secret to survival.
Goodbye. Sorry, I have to
Okay.
leave.
Oh, you left at the wrong point. I was just talking to Mike about how the alien cortex will protect itself by saying, like, I gotta leave. That the cop will come in. I suspect that's what happened. So, anyway, okay. So this is for secrets for survivors. Okay, the way to survive is You cheat. It's the only way.
It's Kobayashi
So okay, so
Maru.
let's go back. Yeah, you see, the survivors out of this is okay. So take the rope analogy. Is you have to pretend that you're cutting the rope above you, but you cut it below you. Okay. Well, what I mean by that, what I mean by that is, okay, if you have a look at these grand alien cortexes showdowns, like, okay, I'll give you a good one, Masada. You're saying like, okay, it's well worth looking at Masada very, very closely, because it's a kind of Masada situation. Is like the Romans are building a ramp and they're going to get you. And, you know, if you're male, you're going to be castrated and taken into slavery. And if you're female, you're going to be raped and taken into slavery. And it's way better to die. How do you survive this situation? Well, the first thing is you have to admit you can't. So you have to admit that you're in a situation where you're better off offering yourself like they did in Masada. So great. We all offer ourselves. The key to survival is telling everybody we all offer ourselves, and I'll do the thing. I make sure I draw the last straw and I wield the last sword. Because I hope you're getting this. If everybody tops themselves and you're the last one to wield the sword, you get to go and hide in the well. The Romans come and go, oh my God, they all top themselves. They're not going to look in the well. That's how you get to survive Masada. In fact, studying Masada pretty well, I think that is what happened. That's how we know what happened at Masada. People survived it. You know, you've got to ask yourself, how? They cheated. They all went into this, like, can't say the word because it's a trigger word, but they went into the unalive yourself pact and they cheated.
Yeah, I want to get to that here because
now there's not a lot of room for everybody to know that, right? The whole plan falls down if everybody knows that.
I'm starting to realize that as I get into this, looking to Desiderata, that those who survive, and we talked about this before, the rats, like they don't have, I guess we were born in society, civilization, we're always taught binary, you gotta be either you're a good person or you're a bad person. Bad people go to jail, good people are elevated and they're promoted, and there's never a gray area. But those who work in the gray areas seem to be best suited, adaptable. So yeah, that's interesting.
The good people are the guys who have buried the skeletons deep. So here's the first thing is like, guys, get over this high-flown moralism. It's like, we're fucking chimps, man. We all got fucking skeletons in the closet. The difference between the white hats and the black hats are the white hats have buried their skeletons deeper and more skillfully. That's all. Sorry to tell you this. But that's,
yeah. And the positions where no one would dare but think that there's anything bad about them. That's where the darkest of the black hats like to gravitate towards, like the priesthoods and the politicians and the Mother Teresa type of situation. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. So I'll give you a little test here. Okay. So we're in the Harry Potter movie, and you're Voldemort, the most evil creature known to man, and you want to survive to the final episode of Harry Potter. How do you do it? You just be Harry Potter, not Voldemort. Voldemort is scripted to die. Harry Potter is Voldemort. He's the evil one. How do you know? He got through. It's only the evil one that gets through. You got to be a little bit evil, guys. Sorry. To this, to that, you're not going to make it. So you want to be 99% good. It's that 1% of evil that's going to save your ass. So this is all kind of passed down in code. In ancient Egypt, there's a mural of the judging of the pharaoh. And you can see all the key characters and all of them. They're all parts of our psychology. And you can see the advocate, but it's the advocate for the hero. And the hero, the pharaoh, he represents us, Orion, if you like. Mithras, the hunter, the Hercules, the hero. So it's all it's called the weighing of the heart. Right? So the ancient Egyptians didn't think that our intelligence was in our brain. That's a Western thing. They thought our intelligence was in our heart, because I guess they had more of a conscience. They can feel the paraclete. They can feel they're more in touch with their heart. Right? So they can feel their heart directing them less than their head, is my suspicion. But anyway, the net result is you see it in the mural. It's the pharaoh's heart that's being weighed against a feather. And so how it's presented to you, if you go to Egypt, the guide will tell you, is the pharaoh has to be impeccably good. The pharaoh has to have utterly pure. And so the heart's the brain, in other words. So the alien cortex, pharaoh's alien cortex has to be perfectly erased. He has to be alien cortex free. The meek inherit the world, earth, all this kind of thing. So like, no, not quite. The heart is weighed not against an empty scale. The heart is weighed against a feather. So in that feather is your survival. Does that make sense? It's like they're lying. The pharaoh does not have a perfect heart. The pharaoh has at least the corruption, a weight of a feather. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's quite.
It's a trap to go through with the thing. It's kind of where Christ missed, right? Christ was a miss. He got put up on the cross. Why? He thought you had to be perfect.
Yeah. The original definition of sin is a missing the mark, right? So he just called Christ a sinner.
Christ is a sinner. He missed the mark. He's there up on the yoke. The yoke's on him. That cross is a yoke. It's not a. The crucifix is a yoke for oxen. So, okay. Since we went here, let's lose all our Christian audience at a stroke. So Christ was almost certainly not nailed up on a cross. I think that Jesus existed, and it says, if you're the very first account is in the letter of Paul's letters, epistles, and he says unequivocally twice what happened to Jesus. He was hung from a tree. So like, now that's you see, they put the epistles after the synoptic gospels, so we read it not in the chronological order of the myth, rather than the order it was written. But the most accurate account is Paul's. So I say, why have we got him up on Roman standard execution technique of a crucifix? And it's obvious, because the Christian myth comes from Jews in exile in Greece. The first Gospels, I was told in school, they were written in Aramaic because that's the language that all the disciples spoke. So they must have been in Aramaic, and they've all translations. It's like, no, the very first copies of the Gospels were Greek. They were done by Jews in exile. So it's like, why did they cover up the fact he was hung from a tree? So because any Jew in exile The minute you start trying to sell the story of Jesus to them, they're going to ask how he died. And then you're going to have to say, well, he was stoned and hung from a tree. And then they know instantly, well, he was condemned by the elders. He was condemned by the Jewish elders. Why? For blasphemy. That was the standard punishment for blasphemy. It's basically you stoned and then hung from a tree. So as soon as you said, oh, Christ is the true Messiah, it's like, dudes, the elders condemned him, so don't tell me about this fucking criminal. They never get anywhere propagating the Christian myth if they told the truth. So they had to hide the fact that he was executed by the elders, the Jewish elders, for the crime of blasphemy, and his blasphemy was to say he was the Messiah. Were the elders correct? Yes. We're chimps. We're not messiahs. So he was justly killed by the alien cortex in the form of those Jewish elders. And it's like, how do we know this? It's because scholars know. There's no, according to the accounts in the Synoptic Gospels, is Jesus was very careful not to break any Roman laws. He didn't break a Roman law. Saying I'm the king of the Jews there's no law that says that's not insurrection. So he would have had, if he had been really executed by the Romans, he would have broken the Roman law, and that law would have been put up above his cross. So the inscription on the cross would have said, like Article 1053, standard law in Judea, insurrection. It would be mainly insurrection. That's what it's a warning to other people. So if they put, king of the Jews up there, it's like, that's not a Roman law. The Romans would never have executed a convict and put some bullshit like king of the Jews. And Jesus didn't break any Roman laws. He was scrupulously careful not to. So scholars know very well what happened. They just tell all the sheep this bullshit story. But what that crucifix is the yoke of Christ, and it is literally in many churches and stuff. It's a repurposed yoke for oxen. So it's basically they're not being very blunt about it. The Christian religion is about yoking you as an ox. So what's an ox? This is a castrated cow, castrated bull. So it's basically the alien cortex castrated and harnessed to a yoke. That's what Christianity is.
I was with you until that last oxen thing, but I think it's pretty well known that was a common punishment, a Roman punishment, and I don't know if they were doing the oxen symbolism.
No, not the Romans. No, I'm just saying in the later symbolism of the church. You see, eventually they invent the symbolism of the crucifix, but you see, the Romans never executed, and it's impossible. It just doesn't. The whole passion thing is all out of whack.
The Romans did that kind of execution very often, en masse.
It's the standard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the standard.
Yeah, it may not have happened to Jesus, the person, but it happened en masse, right? So it wasn't by usurping that they can tell a story.
Yeah, but you see, they're telling the story in exiles to Jews that have been exiled by the diaspora. So basically, the Romans have turfed them out of Judea for being too problematic, and guys like John of Patmos and stuff, he's in Greece, and basically they're spinning yarns. Greece is full of myths, and Christ myth comes out of it. But they have to substitute. They have to hide the fact that he was executed by the Jewish elders for blasphemy, and then say, it's a really saleable to tell all these pissed off Jews in exile that say, like, who killed Jesus? The Romans. Oh, then know what he is. Well, you got some converts right away. But then you have to say, they're going to ask some details, and you're going to say, well, how did they kill him? Well, it's got to be the standard Roman way, so it's got to be crucifixion, and then the whole story falls apart, because you can clearly see that the guys who wrote all about it, they didn't understand the basic geography around Jerusalem. They got all the distances wrong and the places wrong, and then the time sequence wrong, and so the Passion Play doesn't hang together even slightly. But you can see them all like making it up, fabricating it. It's a myth.
I can see the bull symbolism and stuff because of how intertwined the myths of Jesus were with the myth of Mithras, right? So the slaying of the bull and stuff like that. For those who don't know, the Mithras was, I mean, that religion was like 1,000 years earlier than Christianity, and Mithras was born on December 25th under a supernova-like star in a cave with 3 magi there, and there's a scorpion in the cave.
From a virgin, most important, from a virgin.
Yeah. So yeah, it's and Mithraism was very common, supported by the Roman legionaries and things like that. It was very popular. It was a rival religion to Christianity until about the 400s, the 4th century, maybe not the 400s. And when Christianity became the official religion then of Rome, then they kicked the Mithraism out. But as the church is often does, it kind of bought some converts with some saying, hey, you can worship our guy and it's just like your guy. So and brought some of those people into the fold that way.
Yeah, so Mithras and Mithraism was not antithetical to Christianity. Paul made it that way because he struggled. You see, the Mithraic guys say, yeah, we're completely up with this Jesus. We understand who he is. He's Mithras. And then Paul went, no, he's not fucking Mithras. And they said, yeah, he is. They basically rattled off all the things. We know this story. Say, no, it's not that story. It's a new one. And so basically, he really struggled to differentiate himself from Mithras. And the guys were completely accepting. Mithraism was completely accepting to Christianity. But the Constantine banished all of that. But Mithraism ended before Constantine because they brought Cybele from Cybele. So there's a close relationship between Mithras and Cybele. So Mithras wears the Phrygian cap, the Smurf cap that runs all the way to the French Revolution. And hello, that Phrygian cap comes from Anatolia, from Turkey. So that is the cap of the Corybantes. The Corybantes are the Galli, the castrated priests of Cybele. So it's closely related to Attis. So what Constantine, the soldiers were really Sol Invictus. So Sol Invictus was the national cult of Rome at the time when Constantine came up against Machiavellius. No, what was his name? I can't remember. But anyway, they had a battle at the Milvian Bridge, and Constantine won simply because they were contesting the throne of Caesar. And Constantine won by a clever trick. He realized that a lot of these guys the Roman soldiers were Christians. They had no reason to fight and die for Constantine, and they really weren't going to do it. If they were going to do it really half-heartedly. And so he had a brilliant idea, and he said, okay, we'll just say he confabulated the story that he had this vision that he saw the cross, which is like an X, in this case, over Sol Invictus, over the sun. And so he said, he appealed. He turned what was just, a factional fight between guys battling, in Game of Thrones, and turned it into a religious war, which was very clever because then he won. But he only won by appealing to religion. He would have lost if he didn't do that. He was slated to lose. And then after that, then he kind of had to stick with this dumbass Christian cult thing. Yeah, he was cornered.
I thought it
And
was
his
wife that
mom went in for Christianity in a big way.
I thought it was his wife that convinced him. How is it that the soldiers were all Christian?
No, his mother. He was close. It was close to his mother, but they confabulated that afterwards. So it was, yeah, it was close to his mother, and she became big on Christianity.
Okay, the soldiers.
I don't think his wife.
Yeah. At that point,
the what?
The soldiers were in that. The soldiers were majority Christian at that point.
Not majority Christian. The official cult was Sol Invictus and Sol Mithras, but they were increasing numbers of Christians, and Constantine knew it. So the Christians were tolerated, right? But I mean, percentage-wise, it's like 50% maybe is my guess. But it was a growing thing. So it's the up and coming meme in the Roman army, and so Constantine just made a cynical appeal to this myth, and because he knew it would be popular with the soldiers, and instantly turn it into a religious war and give them something to fight for. And then that's the only reason why you've even heard of Christianity. You would never have heard of it apart from that little incident of little sleight of hand. But that's, you see, if you go back to Mithras, that's where the iconography of the bull comes from, and the Taurus in the night sky, and that goes back very far, because you can see that same bull appear over and over again. You can see it at Çatalhöyük, you can see it at Göbekli Tepe. That's the theme, and the obvious interpretation is that's our head, that's our brain, that's our alien cortex. You can see the hero facing off against it, which was kind of the plot all along.
Is there any connection with in Spain with the Moors and the and running of the bulls and the bullfighting stuff? That tradition with Mithraism?
No one knows, but I strongly suspect that a lot of other people have looked at bull baiting. And if you look at what they're doing, especially the picadors, the clowns and stuff, and teasing the bull, I think, and a lot of other people think, that it comes to Spain through Crete, because the Minoans, you can see in Crete, you can see them doing exactly a bullfight that looks like a Spanish bullfight, with the guys doing, picador, and they're teasing the bull. They're doing those clown tricks, like rolling over the bull's head. Now, when you go to now, it's amazing, because that's 1174 and stuff. It all comes down with the sea people. That's the end of Crete and the Minoans. But the amazing thing is that if you go to Çatalhöyük, and so that's like 7,000 BC, then, or 6,000 BC, then there's a bull baiting scene that looks just like the Minoan one. So it's too much coincidence that the guys in Çatalhöyük have a bull baiting ceremony where they're teasing the bull. That happens, in Crete, and then it happens in Spain. So the Spanish one goes all the way back into prehistory. People don't really know where bullfighting in Spain started, but it's got strong hints. There are Tauroboliums and stuff, and Mithraeans and stuff all over. Anywhere where the Romans were, England and stuff like that. So hundreds of them. So it's clearly comes down the line. There's clearly a myth associated with that bull. It goes very deep into deep time.
Yeah, it's originally Persian, though, right? So that makes sense that it'd be in
Aryan, I think.
But yeah.
No, so it's Çatalhöyük's in Turkey. So it's Aryan. I'm certain of it. It's an Aryan trope.
Yeah, but Turkey was
So
Persian.
I'm convinced because well, Indo-Iranian. So these guys are Aryans. It's better to call them Aryans. They don't like calling them Aryans because Hitler.
Yeah.
So they jump through hoops and call them Proto-Indo-Europeans. And when they in Persia, then they call them Indo-Iranians. And when they in Indus Valley, then they reluctantly call them Aryans because they kind of call themselves that. I mean, in the Bhagavad Gita, they call themselves Aryans. But then they don't like calling the Hittites Aryans, or clearly they are. The Phoenicians are clearly a branch of this. And the Yanmaya people would go west. They definitely don't like calling them Aryans. Why? Because of Hitler. But they certainly called themselves Aryans. That R sound is Aryan means of noble birth. It's supposed to mean, that's what linguists think it means. But I don't think it does. It's that R sound is noble because it means something to do with the sun. They're solar worshippers, and that R sound is something to do with the sun. So it's Ra. It becomes Ara in Egypt, but it's the same thread, and that Ra, Aryan, Armenian, anything you hear with that R sound in that area is the same thing. And so why it's a noble birth is the same, like the Japanese emperors, because it's supposed to have descended from the sun, and that's got to be an Aryan thing. They're patriarchal, and the myth is that it's that the patriarch is descended from the sun.
Isn't that what the word theos, like that word goes back, deus, the deva, that's like sky father originally.
Yeah, it is Zeus. The word is actually Zeus, and Zeus means deus. Yes, I'm not sure about sky father is too strong, but they, yeah, it basically is a patriarchal god. Not sure if sky is in Zeus, but anyway, Zeus was a sky god for sure.
Yeah, I thought that was the Proto-Indo-European root, was sky father. There are a few other things that I think we can linguistically pull out. One is they had I think they had the concept of the wheel in
They
their
invented the
language.
wheel, yeah.
And they had also the concept of mead. So they knew how to domesticate honey and take control of that and use it for alcohol. They had the word for this Skyfather meme, I guess, kind of originates there. And it's interesting to look at that and compare it to some things that are culturally, divergent, such as the Andorran religions and stuff, ancient religions, because those were like the gods come out of the earth, the underworld, and there's no sky father situation, and linguistically they're also completely separate. So there's just like this little isolated island of non-Indo-European thing, and interesting that the beliefs are also bifurcated there.
Yeah, so the Aryans are best known, and they probably in their own time would have been known for being charioteers. So they domesticated the horse and invented the wheel. So you can, if you follow the chariot, you're following the AR1B gene, which was their signature gene. So if you go, you can see it in the chariot goes to India and becomes part of the Mahabharata and that tradition, and the Gita, and Arjuna's a charioteer. And you go south of Hittites, and that they wind up in Egypt in the same freaking chariot. And then the Yanmaya people, some of those guys going that way, they're charioteers. So they come with the horse and chariot. So you can follow the wheel, the horse, and the chariot all the way through to the Industrial Revolution. That the you say is the carriage of the Aryans. And if you're white, you're an Aryan. The same freaking concept. You haven't come a long way since then. But what I believe, they always put, if you look at where they put the origins of these people, they always put it on a modern map. And then they put it somewhere in the steppes above the Black Sea, around the Caucasus, the Atlas Mountains. By the way, Atlas and stuff is also associated with the bull. So this is the Taurus Mountains, by the way, in case you're struggling for clues here. So those guys are wrong to put it on this modern map, because right where they say, they obviously originated for is now the Black Sea. So they always do the modern Black Sea, forgetting that the time of the Proto-Indo-Europeans, the Black Sea definitely wasn't there. So it's clear that, to me at least, that what these guys are doing is they're living in this kind of Eden. That's where Eden is placed in the Bible, and right then near Göbekli Tepe, in fact. But it's clearly Eden must be the kind of Okavango swamps of the thing. The Danube, all these freshwater things are draining into this marshland. They're clearly marsh people, a lot of flat areas for horses and chariots. But there are a number of different tribes and flavors of Aryans. And they Neanderthal Cro-Magnon hybrid. They must be. And then the best explanation for why they get displaced is because the Dardanelles overflows and the Black Sea comes into existence. And it all fits with the timeline. And then you can see the flood myth from Noah's flood myth and this flood myth of Deucalion. It's the same story, word for freaking word. And that's the story all fits together, but nobody will say it the way I'm saying it because it's so politically charged. It's from stem to stern. What I just said would just make an academic's head explode, because it's there's so many taboos about history and the Nazi view and who the Norse people are and who the Yanmar. They fight and fight and fight. And what they're all trying to say is they're trying to hide the tracks of the alien cortex of this Cro-Magnon Neanderthal failed crossbreed. There's something wrong with that crossbreed, and it tracks that AR1.
You mentioned the Hittites having the chariot and stuff. What about the Assyrians? Are they also
the Assyrians are also Semitic?
Okay.
No, they're Semitic. So after Noah has 3 sons according to the Bible. So Noah, fetches up on Mount Ararat, which is in the Caucasus Mountains. So we're all talking Caucasians here. But according to the Bible, then Noah has 3 sons. It's Shem, and that all the Semites come from Shem. And then there's Shem, who was the other guy? And then Moab, I think. Yeah, Ham and Moab. And so Ham is all the black people. And then Moab is all the rest, I think. But anyway, those Semites are Sumerians, Assyrians, Hittites. So the Jews are really Hittites. So they get mysterious about, they emerged suddenly out of the blue in Egypt. And it's like, nah, they conquered Egypt. The Hittites.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, that's very interesting. I think. Can you explain why white people are called Caucasian?
Because they come from the Caucasus Mountains. So
do they?
So when the Black Sea filled up, when the Black Sea filled up, its furthest extent was the Caucasus Mountains and Mount Ararat. So there are a couple of Mount Ararats, but the genuine one is in the Caucasus Mountains, and that must be the one they're talking about in the Bible. So Noah must have been
the one that they have
some guy, some patriarch. There's another one in Turkey, but that can't be the right one. It
Right.
must be the one in Azerbaijan where because they're Caucasians. It's called Mount Ararat. Again, that's R sound. Ararat. You know the Aryans. Whenever you hear that R, it's a giveaway. So yeah, so Aryans must have named Ararat, and I think that's the name for the sun. I mean, it's got something to do with the sun and sun rising and stuff. Because by the time it becomes Ra in Egypt, I think it was originally called Ara. So it's just like Ararat. So it's like Ararat is like Ara's mountain, the sun's mountain, or sunrise mountain, or something like that. And we go all the way from there to the Industrial Revolution. And so these people, if you trace their history, these people have destroyed the earth. They're us. Particularly me. I'm guilty as fuck in this regard.
Yeah. I think
Anyway.
you had a head start on destroying this.
Very fascinating.
I'd catch up given enough time, but I think you got a head start.
Yeah, well, it's speculation, but it's very easy to put together a story that works better than the mainstream story. Besides, they so hell-bent on twisting history. History is war. It's weaponized. Anyway, we better stop at that crucial point, which will probably get us banned from YouTube after this. So, okay, just pause, let go, and come to a point of stillness. Om Paramatma. So anyway, but that Atman too is a Sanskrit word. That's Aryan, and so Atman too is from that same root, from R. So Atman, Aryan concept. Sorry. Okay, well, that's it.
Thank you. That was good.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. All right. I guess